Hello and welcome. My name is Preston Mathis, and today we'll be going over two Boondocks episodes and comparing and contrasting how they represent black political figures. And this is for my media project for black popular culture. Now, the question to ask today for anyone who's not informed currently is, what is the Boondocks? Well, the Boondocks was originally a comic from 1999, created by Aaron McGruber, and eventually was turned into a animated television series on Adult Swim in 2005. The main concept of the Boondocks is that it follows a family known as the Freeman family, which follows mainly three characters. There's Robert Freeman, the grandfather, who's generally known as Granddad. There's Riley, the younger brother, and Huey, the older brother. The way the episodes usually go is their Granddad or Riley get into a situation that usually speaks on or revolves around black culture or black television or something of the other. And in most cases, is the most like socially conscious character, and is often portrayed as the voice of reason, while Granddad and Riley are either seen as kiss-ups or openly ignorant to the world around them. More in-depth information on Boondock specifically, you could look at the Howard's reading and Lackass reading. The show does have a very, I would say, on black popular culture, especially black television. It's mentioned in a review done by Aaron McGruber, but the show is often critiques black popular culture and argues that it might be setting black people back a bit, as well as the show talks on the African diaspora and how black Americans are connected to it. First episode that we'll be talking about is called Episode 6, Season 1, Return of the King. The concept of this episode is that it is essentially a what-if story of what if Martin Luther King was not killed in the 60s and actually was just comatized and woke up in modern day, which in modern day is like, in Boondocks is 2006, 2007. Yeah. And it's actually quite interesting. I have in my notes here that so initially MLK is celebrated for his return, but eventually MLK's views on events like 9/11, which were a hot button topic at the time, garnered him a lot of ill contempt and disdain across the media. And the majority of the episode is about Huey Freeman, the older brother, and Martin Luther King Jr. Exploring the modern world, and characters like Granddad highly respect Martin Luther King, but were only in the civil rights protests for things like glory, and characters like Riley, who are often depicted as ignorant, don't really see the hype around Martin Luther King, and like the Riley says like that he was dick riding, pardon my French, but near the end of the episode, Martin Luther King attempts to host a black only party, and it doesn't really go well, and it ends with him giving a speech about niggas, and how there's the opens a clear distinction between black people and niggas, which does have some connotations of DuBois's theory of the new Negro, and that has its own problematic stints. And it also kind of clashes with Stuart Hall as well, um, and his depiction of black representation in the African diaspora. Um, but at the end of the episode, it seems very clear that what the episode is trying to say is that MLK shouldn't have been to the current world, and instead the current world should take more influence from MLK. That he is usually in the right in most stances. Following that, the next episode that we'll be talking about is season 3, episode 1. It's a black president, Huey Freeman. Now this episode talks about the year that Obama became elected. And while uh, Obama is only in this episode for a very short period, uh, as he's only seen on television condoning Huey Freeman and considers him a local terrorist, mainly because of his political views. Hmm. But you still see how the episode sees him based off everyone else's reactions. Um, Characters like Granddad and Riley are extremely excited for there to be a black president, despite not knowing any of his policies. Um, Characters that I did mention before, like Tom and his white wife, who I forgot her name, are also excited super excited. And throughout the whole episode, most of the black characters are just super excited for there to be a black president at all. Uh, and the only person who isn't really is Huey. He's not openly critical, but he's definitely indifferent. And once he displays this indifference to the rest of the black community, he becomes reviled and hated to the point where he feels the need to up and leave the country because he doesn't feel like there's a place for him in Obama's America. But isn't in this episode a lot. Uh, the episode still displays that at least his followers or people who are supporting him at the time might either be at the very best a little ignorant, like at the best a little overzealous, and at worst openly ignorant of the actual policies that go into American presidents. How uh, the Boondocks views modern political figures over the past. When we compare and contrast the episodes between the episode where they depict Martin Luther King and Obama, there is a very clear distinction. Yeah. Martin Luther King Jr. has a very obvious legacy, especially for a show like this that is about blackness and black politics and black popular culture. Martin Luther King is almost a legendary figure, and so he's held very gently and is not openly interrogated much. The most he gets is the way his performance is a lot slower, which is meant to and like have some subtle comedy to it. But compare that to Obama, and Obama is openly like eh, criticized through how they represent his supporters. He's met with a lot more open cynicism that's more relevant to modern American politics. It's very possible that if Martin Luther King was alive today, he would not be lauded and lauded as much as he was back then, and he'd probably be under a lot more scrutiny from either side of the political party. There are some other references I'd like to mention, such as, for one moment, like Clark or Drake Ethel. and of course Stuart Hall again, as well as Bell Hooks. I'll link all of those sources in the description of this video, but I do think this is a conversation that needs to be open to discussion on how we view and treat black politicians, especially on in leftist spaces, in black leftist spaces especially. But until then, thank you much for watching, and hopefully this is the last time I see you.